Welcome everyone to an episode of my podcast, and my podcasts are always good, but this one's going to be an particularly intriguing one. It's taken me a while to get my amazing guest, Julia Nimchinski, onto this show, because Julia is, I think I'm allowed to describe Julia as an enigma in terms of her approach to go to market and dismantling the status quo. I think might be one way I would describe what Julia and her colleague Justin Michael, who I've had on the podcast in the past. Julia is the co-founder of HYPCCCCYCL, and if you're not in the Hype Cycle, you should be in the Hype Cycle because it's a crazy fun place to be. Describes herself as learn by doing. I'm a big advocate of that. Has done other cool things, so partners with Justin, as I said, in terms of they are a creatively led and commercially focused GTM agency, GTM Mag, I'm an author, doing all sorts of cool and crazy things. And I know my guests will normally know that I don't really have any plan around where these conversations go, but I genuinely don't know where this may or may not take us. So all I will say to my listeners is strap in, because I feel this could be an intriguing one in terms of challenging your thought processes around how we go to market in the modern way. I will now shut up. Julia, who, what, why, when, where, what's your story? And let's see what rabbit hole this inevitably is going to take us down.
Thank you for the amazing intro, Alex. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that we finally made it happen. We were scheduling this one for, I think, a year, actually. Yep. So
we got that.
We are. How is your go-to-market motion?
How's my go-to-market motion? Well, I'm interested in your story first, and then we can talk about my go-to-market motion. So what's brought you to where you are today? What is your story?
Yeah, my story, I just worked for a decade in marketing. Pure marketing, they call it, SaaS, Salesforce ecosystem, always different kind of a project, revenue intelligence, like CRM integration, all of the boring stuff that no one wants to do. I was always marketing and excited about. So been a CMO in early stage startups, been in event marketing, a copywriter, and, really wore every hat in marketing and was always responsible for the go-to-market motion. Huge fan of early stage startups, and the reason being is it's the perfect platform to learn by doing and to have that ability to do so.
And so why was, and we will talk about my go-to-market motion, don't worry, I'm not ignoring that question, but I want to get kind of the foundation of kind of where we're at. And so why did you and Justin kind of form HYPCCCCYCL and kind of take what is, some might say, a very different and challenging approach to how organizations should create their go-to-market motion?
Yeah, the quick answer, Alex, is just to really change B2B, and the ultimate change that we all need to consider is not even about B2B being boring or, like, I don't know, the websites are white and blue and, Calibri. But really is the fact that the customer, the end user, is not making the decision for themselves, but they have the boss that does it for them. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to democratize all the functions, and we're trying to really challenge all of the sellers, marketers, full cycle reps, CMOs and VPs of sales, and all sorts of roles, and even thought leaders, to actually try do something different, and to, instead of just come and attend another webinar, come unprepared, really fail and learn something new, and be coached by people, some of the most brilliant people in the industry, Mary Shea, Marco Barish, yourself. And yeah, that's the vision, and that's what we do differently.
And why now? Because you were very generous with your words in the imaginary green room, in terms of you've been reading and listening to my stuff. So thank you. At least one person is. But why do we feel it's taking so long to do? Because this conversation is not really a new conversation in terms of the round in terms of the challenges that you and Justin are trying to take on. That B2B is boring. The way we go to market is fundamentally broken. We just seem to be expecting the same results, so we just do more of the same. Let's put more on the top, crank the handle harder, work the SDRs, the AEs kind of harder, and Kelsoprees, nothing changes. So why are we still here having this conversation? And then parallel to that, with the clients that you're working with and with the conversations that you're happening, do you feel we're now starting to see a shift, that people are prepared to fail and prepared to do things differently?
We want to be part of that shift, and we want to create that shift. When we launched the community, Alex, there was only one person in the industry talking about go-to-market, and I mean like using this specific keyword. And it was Mark Roberge with Stage 2 Capital. Yeah. No one else. No badges, no, communities and GTM Games, GTM Labs, or whatever. And we read a lot of his stuff, and obviously it resonated. And that's go-to-market unleashes this bigger vision and really aligns every function, every revenue generating function, every customer facing function across that vision. And I feel that more often than not, we get it wrong. The other week, I bought this course, and I was really interested in the content and just participation in it. I was a CMO from a very famous company, you for sure know. They're really hyped now. And they were promising to reveal their go-to-market blueprint. I was like, wow, amazing. I'm going to ask all the questions I want. And we were sitting with 600 people in a Zoom call, and just literally slide by slide, going through their product launch. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest confusion that is happening, that people tend to see, a sale as something that begins and ends. Mm-hmm. And marketing, like motion, is something that, we launched this campaign and end it, and here's the ROI. Go-to-market motion specifically, like, wow, we did this product launch and that's it. But that's what brings us here, because there's no end to it. The only end to go-to-market is the exit, the IPO, or you just stay private and enjoy your life.
Or you go out of business, I guess.
Yeah.
The other one,
no, that's important. Yeah.
you cease to exist.
I'm positive.
Yeah, trying to stay positive. But even then, when you've done that, if you're exiting or you're IPO, there is then you're almost restarting the flywheel again. And I'm very much of the same belief, and I think it's relevant to all industries, that the sales motion is elastic. It's almost like in space and time, how kind of space and time kind of moves and flows. And your comments remind me of the article that Brent Adamson wrote beginning of last year. Where are we? 2023, 11th of May 2023. I think it was Feb 2022. Sales and marketing is becoming obsolete, and he was basically dismantling how the current sales and marketing structures are just not fit for purpose for the modern buyer in terms of how people buy. The structures that we are creating internally, this obsession with hierarchy, this obsession with job titles, and forcing this upon the client, who is elastic in terms of how they buy. And I'm speaking with David Fisher yesterday, and he kind of said, I think quite a profound statement, in that sellers are selling all the time, but buyers may only buy once in their role, especially if you're in charge of buying a CRM system or an ERP system or finance system or an HR system. That is a kind of a once in a cycle of a 5-year cycle of an organization. And they, getting sellers to understand that the fact this person is only doing this possibly once, and therefore as a seller, how are you helping guide them and help them understand what they need to go through and what the internal stakeholders are and who are the people they should be engaging with, the boss, as you mentioned. But again, the feeling was that we're not equipping our sellers at the moment to be able to do that, because you do this bit, you do that bit, you do that bit. There's defined handover points in terms of the relationship, which is really kind of broken for that. So what are you seeing, or what are you, so that example of that that you just gave, do we have to deconstruct to reconstruct? I mean, how difficult is this, or are there some easy things that CMOs, CROs can start to think and implement based on your experience that you've seen in the market?
Based on what I've seen in the market, Alex, I haven't seen a customer-centric motion B2B at all, or a customer-centric product, or generally customer centricity. And I'm not saying that B2B has to become B2C, although there should be an element to it. So in my marketing practice, what I tried to do, and I was that crazy person, like, I don't know if you remember Web Garage, cold calling battle, the first time, all the time, all paying, amazing. So it was a time when there were like 2 or 3 communities in B2B, and we all know them. And we were evangelizing this revenue intelligence platform, and the only person who was getting it was Seth Mars and yourself, probably. So guided selling.
You're very kind to be alongside Seth, but I'll take it.
And we would see, Seth calls, and he would be so genius, and all the company would like, oh great, we need to just record this call and use this lingo here and there. But Alex, analysts are not the people who are ultimately using the product, right? And the moment I started to talk to the people that would potentially use it, they were not ready to spend their money on it. And no one believed me, but what they were interested in, as crazy as it sounds, is cold calling. They're like, wow, I mean, looks like amazing, Jerry Hill, connect and sell. They are evangelizing it pretty well. I'm curious, all of the conversations were revolving around like, how does motion work? Did you try it? And it was the time of the sequencers adoption. And so that's why I created this cold calling battle, and partnered with Justin Michael and made him the face of it. And we did like, a competition where Aaron Ross, we're competing with, Gabriel Blackwell and Sarah Brazier and all of it. And then it just created a motion where B2B became more B2C like, and almost every company has a mini micro community now, or just partnering with some hype cycle on their, niche. And it's amazing, but that's what I'm talking about, that you have to create, like, there is a gap between B2B and the customer, and the answer to that gap is B2C.
And there's this terrible expression, which some people call it human to human, which just kind of sends shivers down my spine, but I get what they're trying to say. And the B2B, the B2B and the B2C kind of complex, if you will, is an intriguing one, because we all, and I've talked about this in the past, we all have a B2C experience pretty much for 24/7. You get on your Amazon app, your DoorDash app, your Uber app, or what have you, and it's seamless, right? It works, it does what it's meant to do, and it's kind of on demand. I'm not suggesting that every organization needs to go out there and have an app, but you go from one seamless experience which works for you to then your next touch point in life could be just a really poor experience in terms of you visit a bland B2B website, or you get a PDF which doesn't work properly on your phone, or you just get a poor cold call. This isn't bashing cold calling in any shape or form, and it's just the frustrations that we then have with that. And of course, it's not the frustration at said individual either. And I've been in sales, 20 years, and I've done the cold calling and been told to F off and go away and never call me again. I've been there and done it and earn the stripes. It's more the impact that is having, because I guess you're not creating that elastic or fluid continuous motion, but understand that, okay, that didn't work that time, maybe we try a different approach, or we try a multiple approach. But it still feels that we're still stuck in this, you do that, you do that, and you do that, and none of it's joined up to help create that overall kind of single motion. So I'll answer your question in terms of how is my go-to-market motion. I mean, I'm just me, so it's pretty straightforward, and it's pretty much focused around leveraging social. It's leveraging social and creating connections and conversations and getting those conversations offline as quickly as possible. My market is primarily professional services, so law firms and accountants. But everything I have done and built, and the ecosystem that I've built around me, has primarily been, how do I create a awareness and a presence and a conversation around what it is that I do, and then picking the moments for the outreach, but then also accepting that the inbound isn't necessarily hot to trot straight out the gate, and I may have to take time to nurture that. But because of the hard yards that I put in, and because there is no real silver bullet to this, I have been very fortunate that I've been, dare I say it, be able to build a quasi, not 100%, but quasi self-fulfilling pipeline that just keeps churning and keeps doing, because I'm doing the things that work. I've tried things that haven't worked, but I guess it's because it doesn't matter if they don't work, because it's me, and I've got no one else to answer to other than my wife if I can't pay the mortgage. So
I feel you, Alex. I have a conspiracy theory here, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but being a marketer by trade still, it's really rare that products in B2B actually exist. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
So I've been there. I'm sure you too. And we can use all the best lingo and all of the, futuristic promises. And then it's just, a sequencer or a call recorder. So I feel that what's amazing in B2C, and, like take Apple, if you buy an iPad or iPhone, whatever, and then you read all of the marketing lingo on the website and it ends up just, being Nokia or something, you won't be happy. So that's the case with B2B on a human level, because now like there's this motion where people become products, consultants, coaches, exciting times, product level. What do you think?
I think Apple is always kind of cited as the one, you're not buying Apple, you're buying an experience, and you're buying the experience, and their products are amazing in terms of what it does, and you know what you're going to get, and again it's the challenge when you have a product, for those listening, I'm doing inverted commas, to sell, because people, I feel, want something to touch, and they kind of want to touch it and feel it. Whereas that's not necessarily the thing they need. It's what is the outcome they're trying to achieve. And then, does that product, I guess, deliver that outcome? But then what is the experience, both on the seller and the buyer? And I think, on the client centricity piece, I agree with it, but it is a two-way street, because if your sales and marketing teams are having brilliant experiences with the brilliant technology they're using, it's making their lives easier, the byproduct is you're going to have happier people. And if you have happier people, and this is scientific, there's research out there that proves it, if you have happy employees, typically you have happier customers. Because if they're talking to customers and they're happy in their role, and they're happy in terms of what they're doing, and they believe in what they're doing, the byproduct is the customer just all kind of quasi buys into that, which is why you have these vehement, Apple fans, Android fans, Microsoft, Google, all because of what they've been able to create. And whilst, yes, we're not suggesting that a B2B has the pockets that an Apple has to do what it does, I do agree that we could or should maybe start thinking about, the Apple website's really freaking cool and does really, really nice. Our website sucks. So why don't we just try and not just repeat what we've done and do it some different colors and pay, some agency hundreds of thousands, not millions of dollars, to change the font slightly or change this slightly? Why don't we try and rip up the rule book a bit? And hey, here's an idea. And I talked to this till the cows come home. go and talk to your clients. Pick up the phone to your clients and get them to describe to you what it is you do for them in their own words. Describe the experience. And I reckon you'll have some interesting conversations around, you think that's what we do? That's not what we, that's not what we think we do. But the point is, the argument I try and make is, it doesn't really matter what you think you do. It's more important in terms of what the people that buy what you do think what you do, because the chances are this is going somewhere. That's how they will describe what you do to the market. That's how they will describe what you do to their peers. Therefore, use that language to market yourself.
It sounds obvious, Alex, and like common sense, right? But unfortunately, it doesn't happen in reality. And what happens in reality are webinars. And, you know, we wrote a book about webinars. As crazy as it sounds, I think that you weren't expecting probably Justin Michael to write a book about webinars, correct?
Yeah.
So it's actually a book about go-to-market and a book about sales and marketing alignment. And we took a webinar as a metaphor of the insanity that is going on.
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening is, you know, people put it like, all right, let's just be transparent here. People paying monthly subscriptions of $150 or whatever, just to put the badge on their profile to get hired or to look cool or, you know, more senior. And then they don't attend the webinars in that community or in whatever, you know, they associate themselves with. And when you actually listen to the content, you end up realizing that the only people listening to that content are marketers. Because there's, you know, a webinar from Outreach about the future of revenue intelligence, whatever, and all the sales loft people are going to be there.
Yeah. I.e., not the people that will be buying what you're doing. It's the competitors listening to what you're doing because they want to hear what you're hear what you're saying. And I guess that so if I'm understanding correctly, we're not necessarily saying that the construct of a webinar in terms of a delivery mechanism is a bad thing. It's the execution of how those webinars are being executed is what is failing. Because, you know, from a go-to-market, there are multiple channels that you can go to market in, but you're still constrained by the channel and the mechanism in terms of that. So let's stick with this. Let's stick with that metaphor then, or that example. So let's say we want to run a webinar, or you and I are going to want to run a webinar. It's been a long day. How do we go about flipping the script in terms of the content of it, and then making sure that we're not getting the wrong people turning up to it, and people who actually are our target audience?
Great question. So you go to your CSM department, you take 10 happy accounts, and you set up calls with them and talk with them a couple of times, not just one time Zoom call, kind of 15 minutes here and just let's forget about it and, you know, bitch slap them. You go to your sales team, you get 10 happy accounts or potential deals that will close, or, you know, the targeting really, same thing. And then you align it all from the marketing perspective and really try to have a set of interactions with the accounts, with the people, get to know their problems, really take the time. It doesn't have to be like something crazy. It takes a week or two just to execute. And I'm sure that you'll have some insights. I'm sure that you'll have a ton of topics. And the last piece, like, it's our spin on it is to gamify it, because we love to make the customers our, like, basically, I don't know, the stars of our event versus, you know, here's amazing MC and coach and the regular kind of a situation. So what we do, we just bring 6 potential customers and we challenge their thinking to actually do something new. And here's like the answer to all of the insanity in B2B, Alex. It's not even about us not thinking differently. We just forgot how to think for ourselves and in general. So what we're trying to do is to make people think. And I'm answering these questions monthly. I was doing these events for freaking 2 years and onboarding every single person and just, recruiting the people and talking with them. So I have the pulse of the market. And people are so used to the stage experience or to, shining, that they're really uncomfortable to show up, have no prep, just, every time I'm telling them we're bringing best coaches like Mark Roberge. Yeah. So you just show up, he teaches the lesson, PLG, you do something, you fail, he coaches you, you do it again, and you learn something new. If you're lucky, you win. If you're not, come again next month. So 90% of people, they're still uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. It's because I would understand why, because you're kind of putting people under the spotlight to kind of prove themselves that actually that they can do what they can do, and we don't like failing. I love that what you just said. Now we've forgotten how to think. We just go through them. We go through the motions, and I think that's a really good way to look at it. Is we have forgotten how to think, and I recognize it is easier for people like you and I, where we're not under the constructs of the machine and the corporate and the boss, and we can go rogue and we can fail, because it doesn't really matter if we fail, as long as we're not failing spectacularly and failing our clients. So I do recognize and respect when anybody's listening going, well, it's easy for you and Julia because you do. Yeah, we can. But what we're trying to say here is that it's okay to challenge that. And I think it's okay to maybe go and try and fail by yourself. But to your point, get the learning, get the coaching, then take that back internally to go, look, this is what I tried to do. It didn't work, but actually this is the learning I've got. And I think actually if we do this a little bit different, we could all benefit from this. So it is that tension between, this is what we did 20 years ago, so I'm going to do it today because that's what I feel comfortable with, versus there will be a cohort of people who want to do things differently, want to challenge, but don't know how. And it comes back to, I'm just looking at your banner here, learn by doing. It's so true. That is the only real way that you can learn. It's whenever I do with my clients, and you go through everything in terms of the constructs and the concepts of how you use social and digital more effectively to go to market, and they're like, now what? I'm like, just fucking do it. Just start. And if you do a post and no one engages, it doesn't matter. If it really doesn't matter. It's not a reflection on you as a human being. You kind of see this absolute, this wrestle, this internal kind of monologue that's going on, going, I understand with all the logic that you've just said to me, but something is stopping me from doing it for the fear of it not working. So how have you, or how do you, or how are you helping CMOs or sales leaders or even individuals kind of do that? Because what you do is amazing, but it is at the extremes of challenging people's comfort zones. And so I think all the video, are they still on YouTube, or the videos, or do you need to be in HYPCCCYCL to go and see the cold calling competitions and all that kind of stuff? We'll talk about
you just need to log in with your LinkedIn. That's all.
Fine. Well, I'll put the links in the thing. It's well worth going to go and have a look at that. But how are you helping people learn by doing and getting over that psychological fear that this is making me feel horribly uncomfortable, therefore I'm not going to do it?
So I'll be transparent, Alex. I failed more than anyone in this, pitching and just trying to convince people in something that seems to be like really common sense. And the Dilbert ratio is really high in the industry. So the only way to overcome it is to follow what Oren Klaff is advising us to do. And like in brief, it's just about different kind of brains. So there are 3 kind of human brains, apparently. And any information tends to just like, you see a person, so it's in the crocodile brain, and you just don't perceive information rationally. So what we all do in a wrong way, we just try to pitch people, oh, this is amazing, this is an amazing experience, so much learning and this and that, but they're still in this resistance zone, and you're not having a productive, conscious conversation. So I'll leave it to Oren Klaff how to transition to the conscious brain, but that's the answer, Alex.
Yeah, which is I guess it's similar to in parallel to kind of the growth mindset theory of Carol's work of fixed mindset and growth mindset. And if you can understand where you are, that changed how I consult and coach, because I would get frustrated as to why you just not, why you're not getting this. Is this thing when I was in my internal roles, internally doing what I was doing. This is so obvious. Why are you not? Because I hadn't understood that it was second nature to me, but what I was encouraging senior leaders to do was making them feel uncomfortable, was challenging their thought processes, was you can't learn anymore because I've learned all there is to do. And then once I understood that, that enables you to come at it from a softer angle, maybe, rather than the getting frustrated and angry, which is what I did. And I've had one or two almost career-ending conversations with people before someone stepped in and go, just chill. There's much bigger things happening further up the food chain, which you're not aware of, and you don't need to be aware of. So we get it, but back in your box, employee number, what have you, which is fundamentally kind of stepping out there. But it is as much individuals having to, which is hard, right, to have that internal what's the right word, kind of, we're not saying you need to get psychologically analyzed, but one needs to kind of understand thought process and thinking, and why certain things make you feel a certain way, and then the mechanisms like Oren Clef to help you cope and manage that, to try and do things differently. So if people are listening and they want to start thinking about doing this, where do you suggest people start? So let's say there is a marketer or an AE or an SDR or someone listening going, I actually want to take Julia's thinking to leadership. What kind of pointers can you give them in terms of how do they kind of start this conversation without it getting shut down straight out the gate?
Any conversation with leadership starts with the end goal. And that's the brief answer, Alex, and the only answer, really. Leadership doesn't care about, how exciting the HYPCCCCYCL community is, and the retention and engagement and all of the good stuff. Leadership cares about leads and very feasible brand awareness and all of the obvious B2B ROIs. Unfortunately, this is the reality, and I'm not gonna bullshit you and just be all innovative here and inspirational, because like we started this podcast, it's just, unfortunately, it's still in this B2B is in a state when people forgot how to think. Yeah. And they are doing stuff that has been done 20 years ago just because it's been done. And if you're asking the why question, or you start to dig deeper and deeper and deeper, there is nowhere to dig because there are no answers. So behind the scenes, we're launching a new product in the end of the month, and it's related to B2B skill building, very logically, as a continuation of HYPCCCCYCL, and we're fundraising. So we're beginning to just, do all of the deck stuff and all of the most interesting part of SaaS. And when I ask questions, about the target market or the numbers or the projections, and I connect with a lot of founders, with a lot of folks out there, really senior and experienced, and they can't explain why is this number there and not the other number. So it's just, I feel like, I have to ask 10 people just to get into the gist of things, and I still can do it. So they just tell me, you just have to write it because you have to write it. And it brings me back to the university times, when you just have to regurgitate this information because you have to regurgitate it and then you forget it the next day. So that's what B2B is to me.
So let's focus on that end goal, and then I guess work backwards through to how do we achieve this thing? How do we achieve that same end goal, assuming they know why they've got that end goal, notwithstanding the comments you just made, and then working that backwards through. We think there's a different way of doing something more effectively to get to that end goal. Conscious of time, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. Generative AI. I mean, I'm writing an article at the moment on what the business development marketing, on what I believe the impact of generative AI will be. I get halfway through it and I have to stop because there's something new that is then announced, today, tomorrow. So I've told the editor, you're going to get it at 11:59 on the deadline of the day, because it's changing too quickly. But from what you are seeing, and I appreciate it is, I think, nigh on impossible for anybody to really have a definitive answer because of what's happening. But where do you see generative AI playing a role in supporting your go-to-market motion over the next 5 years? Which I appreciate is a nigh on impossible question to ask, but I've asked it, so there we go.
Yeah, I actually see generative AI to be the answer to all of the B2B madness. And the answer is that it's not gonna replace humans, obviously, but it's gonna replace the tactics. And
Okay.
so it's really exciting that it will challenge B2B especially to think, because everything else will be automated. So strategy is going to be the only thing that is, gonna either make you win or lose. And yeah, we talk about go-to-market a lot, Alex, and what irritates me a little is that we tend to just attribute things in our industry to people that sometimes are great copywriters, but not innovators. And I was reading this book, Kenichi Ohmae, about business strategy. So it goes like 30 years back, and there was no go-to-market as a keyword, but it's basically all about it. Yeah. So the mystery with hype cycle that nobody can pronounce or spell, whatever, and the triple C in the middle of it, it comes to that strategy: customers, company, competitors.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Now I know. I did wonder. At least I pronounced it right.
Yeah. Obviously, hype cycle is just like a clever, dig into.
Yeah, I like it.
You get it, but
yeah.
No vowels in B2B. I like to joke about it.
That's an intriguing answer in terms of I kind of get that, and kind of makes sense. Therefore, it's going to force people to think, because if generative AI is kind of doing the heavy shift, the heavy lifting, and kind of the nuts and the bolts and stuff, it is going to force us to think again, for those of us that have forgotten to think and then learn by doing. So if people want to join the hype cycle, or they want to learn more about it, where can I point them to? Point them to your profile, or point to the website, or is there links I can put so I can do this? For those that are watching on my YouTube channel, I've always do this and hit the subscribe button and what have you.
Yeah, hit subscribe button for sure. I think that people won't be able to spell our website, so the best way to go is to go LinkedIn, Justin Michael, Julia Nimchinski. I guess that Justin Michael is easier way to go.
There are more Justin Michaels than there are Julia Nimchinski. So what I'll do in the comments, I'll put the links to both your profiles and to the websites. And if you're listening, the links will be in the body of the podcast. I encourage you to follow Julia and Justin, because their thinking is different. It's out there. It will challenge you, even if you choose not to agree with everything that they put out there. I think there are definitely thought processes and thinking which can get you to think again, fundamentally, and maybe reevaluate some of the things that you are doing. But Julia, I'm delighted you finally, after all this time, managed to make this work. It's been an absolute pleasure, because I know you are super busy in terms of everything that you are doing. I'm very much looking forward to finding out and learning more about your new products, and good luck with all the funding. So all I can say is thank you very much for coming on as a guest. We really appreciate your time and insight.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Alex.
And as always, thank you so much for my listeners for listening and tuning in. You know the drill. If you want to be on the podcast, if you want to recommend somebody who want to be on the podcast, just hit me up on LinkedIn or wherever, and we can make that work. Wherever you are in the world, thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.